Ah yes, Webfishing, a game that I would still consider one of the most relaxing fishing games to exist on Steam. It was the reason that a lot of fishing-based games have been released and are still being released, basing itself on a concept that most games added as side content being regarded as less important. The game now, however, stands at an extremely low player count, but is still holding on. It's sad seeing the game being left as it is, but I think it's time we talk about what happened in a year for this game. Now, if you've never bought the game during its peak, or have never heard of it in the first place, which I'd be kinda surprised, you're probably asking, what is web fishing? Well, let me tell you. Web fishing is both a social hangout and a chill game to play on your own. The basis of the game should be pretty self-explanatory, you know, fishing, but it has other elements like upgrades and cosmetics as well as rarities that need a lot more explaining. I'll keep this explanation short and sweet as to not stretch this video out further than it needs to be. So, in web fishing, you catch fish to sell them for money or to collect them with varying qualities and sizes of fish available to catch, like gigantic whales or tiny weeds. This money can be spent in a shop then at the game's spawn in a few ways. One way being upgrades and tools. These upgrades help assist you in catching more fish more effectively, or for longer periods of time. Tools such as the buckets allow you to passively catch fish whilst not actively fishing yourself. Money can also be spent on cosmetics, which is most of the game's charm, letting you buy things like shirts and a whole bunch of other things to customize your animal to your heart's content. Lastly, a secondary shop can be found that allows you to purchase props for you to place down and decorate a place as you please. Here you can also purchase scratch-offs and gamble, and more than likely lose your money. Things I'll quickly go over that I think will take too long to explain are that every now and then you get a treasure chest that'll give you a random cosmetic if you don't own all the cosmetics. Lures, which there are plenty of, that let you catch specific rarities of fish or specific sizes of fish that you want. And a metal detector that lets you find either junk in the ground, which is most of the time, or every now and then a piece of a hat or a sword that if you get enough of you can craft into a cosmetic. Right, now that that's done with, we can go over what's happened after a year of this game's release. Starting with... I'm just gonna put this out there before I say anything about the community. I'm not a social person, never have been, so I'm not the slightest familiar with the community of this game nor specific people. Alright, now that that's out the way, I can get back to what I was saying. The community that this game had on launch was large, like insanely large compared to its average player count now. There was all kinds of people during the time of its peak, but of course, when a game has a year to linger, the player count's gonna dissolve in some way, more or less extreme. But of course, web fishing was the game to take the most extreme player count deduction. The unfortunate truth about chat room games is that no matter the circumstance, there will always be bad actors, if you can label them as that, held within the community. The community that this game garnishes can be interesting, at the very least, but it's not all bad. There are definitely still people that play the game that are generally chill people, much like those who contribute to the community via mod creation or other means. Most people in their reviews of this game and its community hub will take note of the freaks, as I'll label them, making it a point in why the game isn't good or why it isn't good now. I don't want to be so negative as to what the community holds, because there's genuine talent that comes from some sections of the community, specifically the people that create art in-game, or of usually their characters in-game, those who know how to actually play music in-game, which is a serious talent I must say, and the people who create mods for the game, essentially livening up the game for whatever it lacks. I feel like I'd be doing an injustice if I just skimmed over the music and art scene, because there are some incredibly talented people in this community. I'll show just a few of these projects, with credits of course, just to really show you the work that goes into these. I wish I could show more, but I'd be extending this video way further than I need to. If you're interested in either of these scenes, the Steam Community Hub and YouTube are great sources for this stuff. Now, another scene that definitely deserves to be looked over is the modding community. While a lot of popular mods and general use mods don't get updated anymore, as per the game's state in the past year, these mods are able to expand the fun you could have with the game in many ways. Character customization was a big thing with these, like a lot of mods that added new animal types for you to select that weren't the base game's 2 options. Extra fish and more maps were also a popular creation, the reason of course being that there was only ever one map you could fish on, and eventually you'd be catching duplicates of the same fish you've caught for god knows how long. Other miscellaneous mods like enhancements or props for certain stations, as well as everything else I just listed, are an example of how there's still a community in this game who care about it, even if the number is quite small now. When you leave a game to rot for a year, stuff like security concerns and troublesome people come up quite quickly. This was and still is the case for this game as far as I'm aware, much like many other games that received this same treatment. There were security concerns months before this game was left behind, primarily because of one individual whom most people who have played the game will be familiar with. Realistically, I wouldn't have to name him, but for the sake of clarity I will. The certain individual is named Grincher, and as you'd expect from the topic of this section, is where the security issues come into question. Since this is a chat room type game, moderation isn't exactly present, and at the end of the day is the reason why this whole thing became a problem. For most people, being doxxed would be pretty damn bad, and tragically that is one of the many possible things that happen if you ever encounter this individual. This alone is the reason people say to play offline, but realistically you're still playing a risk since offline isn't actually offline. So your only real method would be to go fully offline, you know, Wi-Fi off and all. I really wish that there was just a bit more security measures put in place so this wouldn't be an issue, but we never got that changed, nor any update to security at all to my understanding. Glossy or save file, or probably something else, is another effect from this, which can be hit or miss, but regardless is a big demotivator for anyone. Unfortunately, as far as I've seen, this is still an issue to this day, so if you ever do plan on playing or buying the game, just be careful. I've stated a few times that the game has been left behind, and I really do mean that it has been left behind and abandoned. I'll get behind the reasons as to why soon, but first I'll go over the state of the game in a general sense, since this is by all means an assessment of the game. The game as it stands now can be best described as dry, with no updates to the game since January of this year. With such a low player count, there aren't many public lobbies to join as there were before, eliminating the social aspect of the game. While yes, the game can be played solo, there's certainly a whole different experience when interacting with the game's community. Another aspect killing this game's social scene is the non-existent moderation, letting hackers do what they please. This may be an unpopular opinion, but I think that even though the updates are non-existent now, the game is all but complete. Sure, new maps and fish would be interesting, but I've seen that cycle before, and it gets repetitive real quick. The final quality of the game is alpha, and the final available bait is the gilded worm, which almost always guarantees high quality fish or alpha fish. These alone sound and act like the final items you'd need for the game, and they are, being that they are tied to each other. Now, about the game's abandonment. I could have mentioned this way earlier, but I thought it'd be better if it had its own section. I can't be entirely correct on what happened, as I've really only read from other people of what happened, but the whole thing arose from one singular tag in the game. With the community that the game garners, as a joke, the developer added a joke tag, literally just called straight, in quotation marks. It made it cost somewhere near 40 times the amount a regular tag did. From my guess, people got pissed, and for God knows what reason, decided to dox the guy, which was just unneeded. Like, what the hell, man? I don't know the time frame that this happened, but I assumed that it was around December of last year. What made the whole situation worse afterward was that a makeshift plush of the game's default character was released, and since then, no updates. This made people think they ran off with the money, but I highly doubt they did, because why would you abandon a game like this? But yeah, that's about the whole reason as to why the game rots with no updates to this day now. It's silly, but, you know, it's what it is, I guess. I'm gonna do this last bit off script, just to be a bit more genuine, so, you know, enjoy whatever gameplay I put in the background, probably just me fishing somewhere. Now, I've spent 87 hours, 87 and a half, I think, on this game, and I enjoyed every last second of it. I'm sad that it's abandoned, because I really did enjoy the game, but I guess it was good while it lasted. You can only really put it positively. Now, if an update did come our way, dude, I'd be all down to play it. But considering it's been a whole year and we haven't gotten an update since, it's more than likely not happening. The game might just maybe be dead. The whole situation with the dev was just stupid in its own part. One minuscule tag got the dude chased off the internet, and that's just, I just can't believe that. Now, the game's good. It's still good. There's gameplay, and you'll probably have maybe like a week to play it, where you'll still be catching a bunch of new stuff, but the game doesn't have much players anymore, and the whole thing about it is a chat room. So, unless you got friends who really do plan on playing it, I wouldn't say it's exactly worth the purchase. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a cheap game, but probably still not worth the purchase. But yeah, that's about it. Now, if you made it to this bit of the video, I really do appreciate it. This is one of the, I guess, other passion projects I've had. My itch for editing has come back and I needed to make something, and I figured web fishing would be the best thing to do. So I really do appreciate it.